So, what do you bring to the table? A question that once was actually very important when discussing future endeavors has now turned to honestly a very polarizing and sometimes toxic conversation. Well, I think Miss Thelma, a local here in Columbus, Ohio, has a very, very interesting take on how people can have this conversation. Her and her husband actually got married within 6 weeks of meeting with each other. And honestly, I think the way that they handle things is something that we should all consider. So, if you're looking for a way to have this conversation in a very honest manner, or are honestly looking for new bae goals, then check out this week's episode of
Keeping the Recipes with Transit Arts.
what inspires you?
Actually, having a purpose to get up in the morning. I lived in Puerto Rico for 5 years, so I'm keeping up with my Spanish.
Wow.
So I do that with my family, my husband, my dog.
Really?
And getting along with people and getting out since I've retired in 2011.
Oh, really? What did you used to do?
I used to work for the state. I used to work in IT, in project management.
Really?
I used to do coding for the providers.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, I was a management analyst too. I grew up in New Jersey originally, and I moved here back in the early 70s. So I've been here ever since. I have a wonderful husband,
How long have you been married to your husband?
27 and a half years.
My goodness. How do you make it work?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, me and my husband got together within 6 weeks.
Wow. Really?
Yes.
What? I'm not gonna say.
He
What
stalked
was-
me.
You what?
He stalked me.
Really? Now.
Well, when I say that, it's in a good way.
Okay. I just want to clarify.
It's in a good way. So when I was going to work and I would come home from work, my grass would be cut.
Really?
And I didn't know who was cutting it, and my neighbors wouldn't tell me who was cutting it. So when the 4th of July came, I was at home, and he came over to cut the grass. So I jumped up immediately. Who's this cutting my grass?
Right.
So I went out and asked him, why is he cutting my grass? And he said he wanted to take me out. And so I told him that I didn't cross the tracks because he's white.
Yeah.
And he said, is that what you teach your kids? And I felt like that.
Yeah.
So I went out with him the next night. We got married 6 weeks later at Bloom Baptist Church in Lithopolis. And we've been married ever since.
Wow. It honestly sounds like a movie. To
I
be
know.
honest.
No.
What made you go, I want to be with this man for the rest of my life after 6 weeks?
Because it was like as though God was answering my prayers, because he was a good man, a good worker. He had his own home. I had my own home.
Yes.
So he was established. I was established. We got together and sat down, and we had counseling prior to. We discussed everything beforehand, and we went over everything. And so since we decided that we were both on the same page, said we'd give it a try. And I told him I wasn't moving out of my house because in case things didn't work. So he moved in my house, and we rent his house, and we're still renting his house, and we've been together all these years.
And counseling went really well for you guys.
Yes.
Was it scary for you guys to go to the counseling?
No, I mean, not really. I felt as though it would have been scary if we hadn't.
Okay. Yep. You know what? When you say it like that, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think that's very important, because it's okay to go see a counselor. It's okay to get a mental checkup. Because I've never really heard married people, well, the married people that I know, they went to counseling before anything happened. They always go to counseling after. How do you guys make it through after 27 years? How do you still keep the spark, the love between each other?
Because we had always said from the very beginning Don't start something you cannot finish.
You know, often that can be a very hard thing to deal with, being that open with, you know, even if it is your partner, being that open to problems. It seems like you guys don't have any fear when it comes to sharing things.
No,
or
none at all.
You don't let it stop you.
None at all. None at all. There's nothing he can't come to me with, and there's nothing I can't go to him with. Matter of fact, I feel more comfortable talking to him than I do anybody else. And we just make sure that we discuss things amongst each other, and we never, ever discuss whatever we have going on. We don't discuss it with outsiders.
Really? So
And I think that's key right there. When you bring people in and you tell them, oh, my husband's not doing this or my wife's not doing that, you're getting feedback that you shouldn't. But I think that if we bring it to amongst each other to the table and discuss it, we get along like that because we work it out together.
Now, there's a lot of table talk within the, you know, especially within the Black community, Black men, Black women talking about this proverbial table. You know, Black men are saying, hey, like, what are you bringing to the table because I do this, that, and the third? And women are like, well, do you have a table to even give in the first place?
Yeah.
You know, what do you think about that? Because you know.
Well, see, that's the reason why you discuss everything prior to, because then you know what the expectations are. And, you know, because I would never, ever take care of a man that wasn't taking care of me. And that doesn't mean that every relationship means that the man and the woman have to work. I just mean working as a couple together. And whatever that discussion was before you got married, to say this is what we're going to do. And that's why I say you don't start something you're not going to finish. If you're going to change your mind down the road, and that's nothing wrong with changing your mind.
See, yeah.
But you just have to make sure you're both on the same page with it.
Yes.
And remember that that's not something that you came into it with. So if you have to compromise, maybe you're the one that needs to compromise because you're bringing something new into it after you discussed it.
Okay, yes.
I mean, that's just the way we do. That's the way we
And that has worked with you and your husband.
Yes.
That is wonderful.
Yes.
Oh my
I'm very happy with my husband.
See, I guess that's the answer, guys. Like, you got to figure out what works for you. Now, you're from an older generation, so you have a larger scope of like how our society has changed, right? I heard it's gonna be good because I heard that side. Okay, so a lot of like this, like once again, this proverbial table, right? It always stems from traditional ideas, when in fact our society is now kind of going away from traditional ideas.
Like you're saying about traditions, traditions change depending on where you are in life.
Yes.
And so the people, the children that are coming up now, these are going to be their traditions. So you can't always expect them to have the traditions that we had.
Yes.
Because they may not want to do what you did.
Exactly. Yes.
They want to do the new things that they're evolving with in their society and that they're growing up, and the new technologies and the way they do things in life. Back in the day, it was known that the father went out and did the working.
Yes.
The mother stayed home and raised the children.
Yes.
Well, everyone knows that that's not the way it is now.
Right.
So that means to me that the traditions are now their traditions that they are making for their children as they grow up and go through time. That's not the new way for the new generations that are coming and evolving.
Yes, that is so true. That's very, very true. A lot of my friends are married, and often they both don't fit within those gender roles half the time, you know, because they either both have to work, or maybe the mother is working, and then they, you know, most of the time the father's taking care of the kids while the mother is working, and often that is frowned upon, and to me it doesn't make sense, because if as long as the kids are taken care of,
right,
and there's food on the table, you guys are now winning at your marriage. Like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? So often, and I'm glad you brought that wisdom and perspective, so that when the younger generation talks, you know, they talk amongst themselves about these types of issues, they also get a perspective like it's okay for you not to fit within the traditional standards. You know,
Yes.
as long as when you're with a partner, like you said before, you know what you're in store for.
Right.
You guys are working together,
Right.
and mostly your communication it always has to be there.
Yes. And always, at least in my opinion, like I said, I don't allow other people with the way they believe in doing things. It has to do with the way we are doing things. And if the man is staying home and taking care of the kids and the wife is out making the money, as long as they're happy doing it, as long as they're on the same page and the children are being raised well, then there should not be anything said about it from anybody else except the two of them.
Yes.
That's the way I see that.
Yes. That, everybody, has been today's episode of Keeping the Recipes. If you would like to listen to this episode or any of our other episodes, you can check us out at keepingtherecipes.com. Also on Buzzsprout under the name Keeping the Recipes. And you can also listen to our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Also, if you would like to watch any of our previous episodes, you can check us out on YouTube under the name Transit Arts. We have a playlist named Keeping the Recipes. Above all, thank you, Miss Thelma, for being here today. We greatly appreciate the wisdom and advice.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And thank you guys for watching our this episode, and we hope to see you next time.